Hello, this is Teacher Andrea. Are you excited for our today's story? I cannot hear you. In the time that all animals still lived together, there once lived a spider called Ananse. He lived in a village with his relatives and all kinds of other animals. Hyena, porcupine, guinea fowl, squirrel, warthog, chameleon, and many more. Ananse was one of the village elders, and one day he summoned all his friends and relations to discuss how they could all do more to help each other. Since they were all farmers, they decided it would be a good idea if they would all go to help one individual, one each day, to plug, weed, harvest, whatever needed doing in the fields or doing around the house.
Since I am in charge of the program, I suggest that on Monday, we will work at my uncle's farm, on Tuesday at my grandfather's farm, and on Wednesday, it would be my nephew's turn. You know,
He said to himself.
I think I can see a way to benefit from this arrangement. I could pretend to be really ill so I can help out with the others. And by the time I am well again, all the work at my farm will be done.
So the next morning, Ananse stayed on his bed, and when his nephew came to call on him, "Good morning, Uncle."
My dear nephew, this buddy of mine is really sick today. I am afraid I can't join you today.
Ananse's nephew told the other that his uncle was sick. They were all very concerned and decided that the next day they would all go and help out at Ananse's farm. They went on for several weeks and Ananse's condition got no better. "It is all very well us helping out on Ananse's farm. When is he going to give us a hand?" Porcupine said.
Is he going to be better soon?
Replied the chameleon.
His condition is very confusing. When we are going to stop helping him?
Hyena added. Ananse heard the complaints and realized that he wouldn't be able to pretend for much longer. He decided he would have to do something to make everybody believe that he was really very sick. The next day, he called some of his relatives together and said to them,
This illness of mine has been going for some time. And it doesn't look as if I'm getting any better. In fact, I feel worse every day. And I think I'm going to die.
No, Uncle, you won't die, his nephew protested. "No, I will call on the medical man and get you some herbs," said Kwame, his brother. But Ananse told them he was getting weaker all the time and started making his funeral arrangement. Kwame agreed that his brother could be buried there. After all, it's very difficult not to grant a dying man's last wish. Ananse continued giving his instructions. They should dig a nice big hole and line the walls with cloth so that his spirit would be comfortable. They should put pots and pans and cooking utensils in the grave so that his spirit would be able to prepare food for himself. Ananse's relations set to work digging the grave. while Ananse himself pretended that his condition was getting worse all the time. When Ananse found out that the grave was done, he pretends to be dead. The next day, they took his body and laid it in the grave which had indeed been prepared the way Ananse had instructed. There were pots and pans and cooking utensils. That same night, Ananse climbed out of the grave and started collecting corns from the field, which he hides in his tub. He cooked some of them. When daylight approached, Ananse hid in his tomb and slept. The next night, he collected more corns and feasted again. This carried on for 1 month. Eventually, Kwame noticed that somebody had been stealing his corns. He thought long and hard. Who could have done this? Normally, I would have suspected Ananse, but he was dead, and I just couldn't think who else could be doing this, Kwame stated. Kwame came up with a great idea. He places a scarecrow in his cornfields. That night, when Ananse came out of his tomb to help himself to a few more of his brother's corn, he immediately spotted a figure standing in the middle of the field.
Oh, somebody's watching me.
He noticed the figure just stood there, not moving at all. His curiosity got the better of him, and he slowly crept up to the figure. As the pole didn't stand very tall, Ananse figured it must be a young boy. He decided to play a trick on the child. He crept up to it.
I've been seeing your mother out looking at you. She said you have to come home to have your dinner.
But there's no reaction from the scarecrow.
Look, I am talking to you, you vagabond. Why don't you answer me?
Still, no reply, and Ananse got even more annoyed.
Do you want me to give you a slap? Very well, I'll slap you and then we'll see what happens.
With that, Ananse gave a scarecrow a big slap, and his hand got stuck in the tar. He pulled, but he couldn't get loose.
Let go of me, you rascal!
He shouted.
Let go of this hand!
He screamed at the wooden pole to let go of his hand.
Let go of me or I'll slap you again!
And he slapped with his free hand, and immediately that one got stuck in the tar as well. Ananse got more and more agitated and angry.
I'll give you a good kicking if you don't let go of me!
He kicked the scarecrow with his left foot, and that got stuck. He kicked again with his right foot, and that got stuck as well. Ananse was now well and truly stuck to the scarecrow. He tried pulling himself as hard as he could, but there's no way he was going to pull himself free. In the end, he was so exhausted he had to give up and cried himself to sleep. As soon as the sun was up, Ananse's brother Kwame came strolling into his field, eager to see if his plan had worked. Wow, no more corns had been stolen, so that part of the plan had worked. Smiling to himself, he went around to inspect the tarred poles. When he looked and behold, he saw the figure of a spider attached to it. As he hurried closer, he recognized his brother. Ananse! Ananse! What are you doing here? You are supposed to be dead. Coolly, Ananse replied,
Ananse is indeed dead. It is his ghost you are looking at.
He became very scared and ran away. He ran straight back to the village, calling out to everybody he passed, "Ananses ghost! I've just seen Ananses ghost!" People gathered around him, wanted to know more. Kwame told them he'd seen Ananses ghost stuck to a pole he'd put up on his farm. Of course, the villagers all wanted to see this, so they all started running to Kwame's farm. There they saw for themselves the figure of Ananse still glued to the pole. "What are you doing here?" Warthog asked. "You're supposed to be dead! We buried you not so long ago!"
You're looking at my ghost!
wailed Anansi, who by now was getting very uncomfortable. The villagers too very scared, and they were about to run away when Anansi cried out,
Stop! Stop! Why are you running away? I'm your friend, aren't I? There's no need to be scared. Anyway, I need your help. I need your help.
Guinea came a little closer and asked,
What kind of help do you need, Anansi brother?
Anansi replied,
I'm stuck to this dark pole. Can't you see? I need help to pull me free.
2 or 3 of them worked up enough courage to approach and started pulling at him. Anansi was giving them instructions.
Pull here, a little more on this side, a little harder here.
But the squirrel who'd been pulling at Anansi's leg stood back and scratched his head.
Wait a minute,
He said,
this is not a ghost. This is the real Ananse. He's not dead at all.
They all stopped pulling and heaving. After they found out that Ananse is still alive, they throw a mud and insults at him. They were all angry. After a while, Kwame took pity on his brother and asked them to stop. They pulled him loose and told him to leave the village and never to show his face again. After Ananse was banned, all his family members were so ashamed that they too decided to leave the village. And up to this day, whenever you see a spider, it is always trying to hide somewhere, in a crack, in the floor, or in a dark corner, because it is still ashamed of what its ancestor Ananse got up to. Did you get the moral of the story? See you on our next story. Bye!